guys, welcome back to another one. If you are new to the channel, I am Gold Pony. I review new cars, trucks, SUVs on YouTube, and today we are in the new 2020 Honda Civic sedan, courtesy of Apple Honda in York, PA. For more information on their inventory, please feel free to check out the link in the description box below. And so I am in this one today because not only did I used to sell Hondas for a brief period of time, but I have actually owned 3 of them in my lifetime so far, back when I had an insane commute to work every single day, and they did go over 200,000 miles very easily for me, so that's always a plus. And that is backed up by the above average reliability rating by Consumer Reports, if you wanted to simply take a look at that. And so you guys may already know, I did review the 2020 Civic hatchback earlier in the year, and I'll leave a link to that particular video at the very end of this video. So did want to check out a video and make one specific to the Civic sedan, so therefore I will be going over everything about this one today, testing out everything I can. So what do you say, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, let's start with pricing. And so as expected, there are several different trim levels for the 2020 Civic sedan. First one being the LX, starting at $20,650. Sport starting at $21,550. EX starting at $23,800. EXL, which is the one we are actually in today, starting at $25,000 even. And lastly, the Touring starting at $27,700. Then when it comes to the power plant on the Civic sedan, there are actually 2 of them, dependent upon the trim level that you go with. And so for the LX and the Sport trim levels, that one is going to be powered by a 2-liter naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder, putting out 158 horsepower at 6,500 RPM, 138 pound-feet of torque, available at 4,200 RPM, power sent to the front wheels through a 6-speed manual for the Sport trim level only. That is the only trim level you can get that 6-speed on if you wanted to go with a manual configuration, or a CVT with paddle shifters, which is available on the Sport, coming standard on the LX. 0 to 60 time for that particular engine setup comes in at approximately 8.2 seconds, which is identical to the 2020 Toyota Corolla, with MPG numbers coming in at 25 in the city, 36 highway for the manual, 30 in the city, 38 on the highway for the CVT, either way taking regular unleaded fuel, aka 87 octane. And so, but then there is the other engine setup available for all other trim levels, being a 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder, the one we have today, putting out 174 horsepower at 6,000 RPM, 162 pound-feet of torque, available from the power band of 1,700 to 5,500 RPM, power sent to the front wheels through a CVT once again with paddle shifters if you go with the Touring trim level, otherwise you're not going to get those paddle shifters. 0 to 60 time for this engine setup coming in at 6.8 seconds. Quite a substantial difference there, and absolutely blows the Corolla out of the water when it comes to this particular engine setup. MPG numbers 32 in the city, 42 on the highway with the EX and EXL trims at least, 30 in the city, 38 highway for the Touring. And that's due in part because the Touring does have a larger wheel and tire combination, so that is going to reduce the MPGs there in case anybody was curious. But 42 MPGs on the trim level that we have today, that is absolutely ridiculous, you guys. And so to go along with that though, let me mention to you guys the Econ button located just behind the shifter. And so back when I owned my 3 Civics, I of course did play with that Econ button, and I had an hour and 45-minute commute to work into the Inner Harbor every single day. And I pushed that Econ button because the majority of my drive was highway driving, and what I found is that Econ button essentially added 10 miles per gallon, believe it or not. I was getting 50 miles per gallon on the highway in a car that was rated for 40 on the highway. So I would imagine this might do even better than that if you have a lot of highway driving at least and you press that Econ button, because what that button is actually going to do is adjust the shift points, of course, and the climate control settings as well. So on a hot day, if you have the AC on, it is going to reduce that AC, I found, which is kind of the trade-off. But if you can deal with that, you're going to get some insane miles per gallon, even more so than the already insane number that the Civic gives you. But so anyways, now having mentioned all of that, what do you guys say? I think it is time, let's do a quick little acceleration test, see if it really does feel like 6.8 seconds. It's going to be going slightly up a hill here, but that's okay. I think the Civic can handle it. Let's go ahead and come to a stop on our trusty bridge here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, okay. Not bad. Not bad, actually. Definitely not going to have any issues with merging onto the highway, and I'm coming off of driving the Honda Fit, so it is quite substantially quicker than that, of course, but Actually not bad, much quicker than I remember, but I never had this engine set up in the Honda Civics that I personally owned. But this thing is a lot quicker than I remember for a Honda Civic, and this isn't even the SI, so well done, Honda. I do like that acceleration. That was pretty good. Having said that, the CVT is still a little emotionless, but it is a good transmission for the Honda Civic. I will say that, but I would have preferred maybe a conventional automatic or a DCT just to give the car a bit more emotion. That's just personal preference on my end. But anyways, to go along with that acceleration, as always, you guys, braking is equally important. And so up front, you will find 11.1-inch ventilated front discs. In the back, 10.2-inch solid rear discs. As far as that 60 to 0 braking distance number goes, for the 2020 Civic, it comes in at 113 feet, which isn't bad, I gotta be honest. For comparison's sake, the 2020 Toyota Corolla comes in at 119 feet. The Honda Fit I just reviewed, since it's fresh in my mind, comes in at 126 feet. So 113 feet is definitely pretty darn good if you ask me. So no issues there. As far as the braking feel goes, it's been, again, perfectly fine. There's no brake pedal delay or anything like that. Certainly brings you to a quick stop. So I do like the braking feel, and that's certainly good for a commuter car as well. Then touching on suspension and handling a bit, up front you're going to get a McPherson strut front suspension. In the back, multi-link rear suspension. Thank you for Honda for not throwing a torsion beam rear axle back there. Front and rear stabilizer bars coming standard with the sport trim level and up, so not the LX. You do have to go with the sport trim level if you want those front and rear stabilizer bars. Of course, giving you a little better handling around the turns on the back roads. And as far as ride quality goes, it actually feels a lot smoother than I remember, so pleasantly surprised there. But perhaps my favorite part about this new Honda Civic as I am about to turn back onto the road here is the steering feel. It is much weightier actually than I remember, so well done Honda for that. But then when it comes to cabin noise, I am getting a little bit of road noise coming into the cabin here, but it's not too bad. It's pretty much as expected for the Honda Civic. But I did want to mention that it's probably not something that's going to bother me personally, but it may bother you, so I wanted to mention that. Then touching on visibility a little bit, I can see perfectly fine out the back, and really with any sedan you're definitely not going to have any issues there, so that is definitely a plus as well. And to go along with that, actually touching on visibility, there are rain sensing windshield wipers coming standard with the touring trim level only. Essentially what that is when the Civic detects any kind of rainfall or mist, it will automatically turn on those windshield wipers for you, kind of like automatic headlights. So it's just one less thing you have to worry about when you're actually driving, so you can better focus more of your attention on the drive itself. So that's definitely a big plus as well. And again, along the lines of visibility, there is of course Honda Lane Watch that comes with the EX, EXL, and Touring trim levels. And what that is when you put on your right turn signal, there's actually a camera in that right side mirror, and that is going to display up on the infotainment screen what is in your blind spot. So you're less likely to turn into somebody in that blind spot on the highway perhaps. So that is a huge plus. Big safety feature as well. It's kind of Honda's version of the blind spot monitoring system, I guess you could say. But that about rounds out the performance segment of this review. Let's now go ahead and take a look at the exterior of this new 2020 Honda Civic sedan. All right, here she is, you guys, the 2020 Honda Civic sedan. Let's go ahead and start up front. So to the sides, all trim levels but the Touring will come standard with projector beam halogen headlights with the automatic feature, meaning when it starts to get dark out at night, they will turn on automatically for you then. LED daytime running lights also coming standard, however, LED headlights coming with the Touring trim level only. That is how you're going to go ahead and get those. Fog lights though down below will come standard with the sport trim level and up. Did want to add along those lines, gloss black fog light surrounds coming with the sport trim level. However, since we have the EXL today, you're going to find those chrome surrounds or that chrome perimeter around the fog lights, basically for all other trim levels with the fog lights besides the sport. And of course at the very bottom you guys can see that front mounted intercooler, since we do have the turbocharged engine set up today. That always looks good behind there. And going ahead and making our way to the side of the Civic sedan, chrome window surrounds coming standard, amber colored front fender lighting, and I know that's a US thing, but I would swap those out to clear fender lighting in a split second, but nonetheless they are there. Body colored power adjustable side mirrors will come standard. They will be heated for the EX trim level and up, and they will come with LED integrated turn signals for the Touring trim level and up. Then take a look down at the wheel setup. 16-inch 16-inch wheels with covers will come with the LX trim level. 17-inch alloy wheels, which you are looking at right now, will come with the EX and EXL trims. I love the double 5-spoke design. Love that the color of those wheels matches our exterior paint color just perfectly as well. And of course, 18-inch alloy wheels coming standard with the Sport and Touring trim levels, so bumped up that wheel size once again. And although the Sport Touring trims do come with the same size wheels, style-wise, they are going to differ slightly, with gloss black inserts coming with the Sport and a gloss gray insert coming with the Touring trim level. And I did want to mention, in addition to that, that Touring trim is also going to add chrome door handles as well. But so then going ahead and making our way to the back, body-colored rear spoiler coming with the EX trim level and up. You will find a gloss black rear spoiler, of course, with the Sport trim level. That's its theme. As far as the taillights go, they will come with LED integrated light bars. Of course, you will have some trim level badging if you go with either the Sport or the Touring trims. All other trims will completely eliminate that trim level badging, as Honda was always known to do back in the day. But for the Sport and Touring trim, you still have that back there. But chrome accenting found on the lower portion of that rear bumper. And I did want to add to that, there is a black rear diffuser with a single chrome exhaust outlet if you go with the Sport. So actually, for all other trims, that exhaust will be tucked away, which is currently what you guys are looking at right now. So what do you say? You guys know what we have to do next. As always, here is that exhaust clip. But now, since we are around back, when it comes to opening that rear trunk, there actually is a button on the key fob. There's also a button on the driver's side door, and of course a button on the trunk itself. So there are several different ways to go about doing that. Once opened up, cargo capacity is going to come in at 15.1 cubic feet for all trims but the Touring. Touring trim level is actually going to give you 14.7 cubic feet, so slightly less. Probably not really anything where you're actually going to notice the difference though. But for comparison's sake, the Toyota Corolla comes in at 13 cubic feet even, so a little bit more space when it comes to the Honda Civic sedan there. If that was not enough space though, those rear seats do fold down. There is a 60-40 split, adding a good bit of extra space there, and you will find cargo lighting in that back area as well. Then make our way to the rear legroom. That comes in at 37.4 inches. So for reference, I'm an even 6 feet tall. This is how much space I had back there. Again, for comparison's sake, the 2020 Toyota Corolla sedan comes in at 41.4 inches. So a little bit more rear legroom with the Corolla, but a little bit more cargo space for the Civic sedan. So I guess that's the trade-off. For those rear passengers in the Civic though, they will find a rear seat center armrest with cup holders for the EX trim level and up. There's also a passenger side seat map pocket if they wanted to store their maps or perhaps some toys for kids really. And I did want to mention heated rear seats actually coming standard on the Touring trim level. That is definitely a big old plus as well. Then make our way to the front seats, manually adjustable cloth seats for the LX and Sport trim levels, 8-way power adjustable driver's seat for the EX trim level and up. That is definitely something that I appreciated when I first hopped in this one. Leather seating coming of course with the EXL, L meaning leather, and Touring trim levels. Heated front seats for the EX trim level and up. Also 4-way power adjustable passenger seat if you were to go with the Touring trim level. But so then taking a look at the steering wheel, one of my favorite parts about this new Civic sedan, it is tilt and telescoping for all trim levels. It is leather wrapped for the Sport trim level and up, and I say it's one of my favorite parts, not only because of the steering feel, which is a little bit weightier than I'm used to, but the 10-2 grips are actually bolstered quite nicely. A lot of times in compact cars, they're going to be kind of wimpy, kind of smaller, I guess you could say, but in the Civic sedan, it's actually quite nice. A little bit thicker grips there, so I definitely appreciate that. Then when it comes to the startup, let me first start by showing you guys the key here. You do have your Honda logo on the one side, and when you flip it over, lock, unlock, that button to pop the rear hatch, and you guys see that circular button towards the bottom there? That is your remote start, and that is going to come standard on the CVT Sport trim level and up. And again, with the Sport trim level and up, you will also get a push button start, which is located just by the driver's right knee. So all I am going to do here is simply put my foot on the brake and press that engine start button there. It's open then once started up. Engine temp is all the way to your left, fuel information on your right, and essentially everything else is going to be located front and center, including the tachometer. There is a digital speedometer within that tachometer, and to control anything else that you want to be displayed up there, there are actually steering wheel mounted controls found on the left side of this one. So that's going to give you a bunch of different things you can scroll through, like how many miles you have left until you hit empty when you need your next oil change. There's your Bluetooth information up there, radio information, a ton of different things you can actually check out up there if you wanted to. And take a look at overall interior quality. The power moonroof that we have here today is going to come with the EX trim level and up. Dual zone climate control once again with the EX trim level and up. Auto dimming rear view mirror with HomeLink controls. That is going to come with the EXL that we have today and Touring. And so that gives you HomeLink controls or garage door openers for up to 3 different garage doors found on the bottom portion of that rear view mirror. And that's always nice because the alternative is that rattling garage door opener found on the sun visor. So I'm always a big fan of HomeLink controls for that particular reason. Sport pedals found on the Sport trim level, of course, and Touring trim levels. Perhaps my one room for improvement when it comes to interior quality with the Civic is there's no ambient lighting that comes standard. You can get it as an accessory I've seen on the website, but it goes for like $900, and at that price point it's not really worth it. But cars like the Volkswagen Jetta do give you ambient lighting for up to like 10 different color choices too, so that's pretty cool. So I would have loved to have seen that on the Honda Civic. So Honda, perhaps in the next generation, throw in some ambient lighting. That would be pretty cool, especially for the buyers that are buying the Civic. I think that's something they would definitely like. But overall, certainly not a bad finish whatsoever. Very nice finish. And I love this design that they have just behind the infotainment screen. It ties together well with the doors. A lot of very nice stitched leather found on the doors, as well as just above the passenger side glove box. And the seats themselves are actually super comfy, and I like that they're a gray leather as opposed to your standard black leather. That's also a huge plus for me, at least. Just in front of the shifter, you actually have a little USB connection port, but that is going to be it there because most of your wires are going to be stored underneath of that, and I always like that the Civic does that. You do have a 12-volt power outlet found underneath there, and a USB charging port down there too, but it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. It gives you a much cleaner look, so that is the reason I absolutely love that. So you just simply have that one USB port right in front of the shifter there and kind of tucks the wires underneath. That's pretty cool. There's an electromechanical parking brake just behind the shifter along with a brake hold button there. There's also dual cup holders just behind the shifter as well. And of course, within your center armrest, you have a little sliding tray and a fairly deep storage area actually as well. So it kind of surprised me how deep that was. So that was pretty cool too. But overall, an actual very nice interior quality in my personal opinion. Again, a lot of stitched leather, a lot of nice designs to it. So overall, I'm perfectly happy with the interior here. But now let's take a look at the tech display. So it is going to differ amongst the trim levels. 5-inch color LCD screen with the LX trim. However, all other trims will give you a 7-inch color touchscreen display. Either way, you get Bluetooth and audio streaming, but when it comes to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, that's only going to be with the 7-inch color touchscreen display. So you're gonna have to go with any of the other trims but the LX to get that. So that's important because all you need to do then is hook your smartphone up to the Civic. That is gonna give you free navigation displayed up on the infotainment screen, as well as the ability to like and dislike your Pandora songs. You can stream YouTube music up there. There's a bunch of compatible apps really, so that's definitely a huge plus for me at least. Factory navigation system is gonna come with the Touring, although you really don't need it. The better navigation system, in my opinion, is gonna be through that Android Auto or Apple CarPlay anyway. You can of course set a clock or a wallpaper to be displayed up on that infotainment screen. I used to do that on my old Civics. And you can of course check out your radio settings up there as well, as expected. So when it comes to the sound system, you will get 4 speakers and 160 watts for the LX. That isn't a whole lot, but if you go with the Sport, EX, or EXL trim that we have today, you will find an 8-speaker sound system with 180 watts. And lastly, if you go with the Touring, that is going to give you a 10-speaker sound system, including a subwoofer, with 450 watts. That's going to be ridiculous. But as I said, we do have the 8-speaker sound system today, so let's go ahead and turn on the radio, see what we got playing today, and let's test out the clarity of this one. actually decent sound system for the Civic sedan. Not a ton of bass, but it's pretty much as expected there. The only thing I would have liked a little bit better is a tune button to actually control what station you wanted to change it on, especially if you're scrolling through Sirius XM with all of those stations. You have to constantly press that channel button on the infotainment screen. It takes a little bit of time, but with the tune button, I think that would be a little bit quicker, but that's my only constructive criticism there. But last thing I wanted to mention to you guys on that tech display is when you do put the Civic sedan in reverse, you will find a rear view camera letting you know who or what is behind you, and it does come with dynamic grid lines actually for all trim levels across the board, so that is pretty cool, and that is going to lead us into safety. And so first thing and most important thing I wanted to mention when it comes to safety, the Civic sedan is an IIHS top safety pick with the LED headlights found on the Touring only. So if you wanted the top safety pick version of the Civic sedan, go with the Touring trim. Otherwise, it's not. Front side curtain airbags will come standard. In the back, you're going to have latch, aka lower anchors and tethers for children for the rear car seats. Also back there, rear child door locks. There is a tire pressure monitoring system, but also standard for all trims across the board. Automatic high beams as well as Honda sensing. And so Honda sensing is Honda's version of advanced safety features, and that will include collision mitigation braking system, road departure mitigation system, adaptive cruise control. That's a big one because that doesn't come standard on every manufacturer out there. Lane keep assist, forward collision warning, and lane departure warning as well. And so when it comes to my final thoughts of the 2020 Honda Civic sedan, I've personally always been partial to Civics. If I wasn't, I wouldn't have purchased 3 of them. And part of the reason I am partial to them is because I trust their reliability. I think the Civic that I kept the longest went around 230,000 miles, and I was dang proud of it. I wanted to take that thing as long as I could, and it never had any issues, so I'm sure it could have kept on going, but the handling is also a big plus for me in the Civic sedan. It's definitely a weightier steering feel, and it's something that I've always enjoyed taking on back roads because the handling is spot on this one. Excellent fuel economy, that's another huge plus. Like I had mentioned to you guys, I got up to 50 miles per gallon in one of my older Civics, and I'm sure this one can do just the same if I did that much highway driving with that econ button. But then on the other side of things, when it comes to room for improvement, there's always room for improvement no matter what vehicle I check out. I feel like, for example, ambient lighting, when I've loved to have seen ambient lighting just like the Volkswagen Jetta I recently reviewed. Exterior design, when it comes to that, that's probably one of the other things that holds me back a little bit. The front end is absolutely amazing. They nailed that. But the side profile and specifically the back end, it's something I would have changed a little bit. The overall teardrop kind of shape is kind of reminiscent of a Toyota Prius or even the Honda Insight. Not that I think the Honda Insight is bad looking. I just don't want the Civic sedan, a sportier car in nature, to share the shape of a hybrid, I guess. It's just two completely different cars. It should be more of a sportier shape, kind of like the Civics used to be, honestly. Specifically back maybe 96 to 2001, for example. The Civics they used in Fast and Furious even, that would have been awesome. And then in the back end, I just think it needs to be brought back down a little bit. The back end is left a little bit higher. I've said this in other videos when I mentioned design. If that's brought back down, like let's say the 2000 Honda Civic, that would have been a much better design in the back, at least in my opinion. But overall, a very solid pick nonetheless. Again, if you're looking for fuel economy, it doesn't get much better than this. Also, the steering feel is absolutely amazing. Now, my personal experience with Civics, they've always gone over 200,000 miles, so you really can't beat that. But that is about it for this one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow me on social media at the bottom of the screen there if you like. Be sure to hit the subscribe and the bell notification button if you're into new car reviews. That is what we do here on this channel after all. Do appreciate you guys watching more than you know, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Stay gold.